Okay, so when I'm teaching paddling, there's lots and lots of keywords we can use, literally hundreds of keywords. Some keywords are going to really resonate with some paddlers. They're going to go over the heads of other paddlers, okay? But when I've got guys, particularly guys who are starting out, I try and keep it really simple, okay? And I focus on 7 particular words, okay? Nice and easy. You get close on these 7 things and you're going to paddle really well. After that, it's just a matter of tuning up. And then we can sort of play around with different words and stuff and bring different cues in, okay? But yeah, these 7 things, if you get really close on these, you're going to set yourself up for a really good paddling career. Okay, so the first keyword I talk about is posture. A good, solid, positive posture in the boat is really, really important to setting up a good stroke, okay? So what we describe as a good posture is sitting proud in your boat, okay? It's not a matter of just sticking your head up in the air and looking upwards. Good posture comes from the hips. You've got good, strong core, that's supporting the upper body. And then with that, then we can start getting some really good rotation on. If our posture is poor, that we're slouched in the ski, we can't get that good hip rotation. That knocks then into the upper body that we can't get that good torso rotation. And then our 80-20 rule gets flipped on its head and we end up paddling out of our arms. A good posture is a good positive posture, sitting proud in your boat, and that's gonna set us up then for the rest of the stroke. Next important keyword is leg drive. So there's a huge amount of power to be gained in our forward stroke from our legs. About 95% of people who come for lessons are paddling their skis too long, okay? So it's really important to get that leg length right. There's 2 components when we set our leg length. The first one is that we can really squeeze our heels onto the plate. The second one is that we still allow ourselves the space that our hips can rotate, that we can get this forward and back motion on the seat. Really important. It's a really important setting to get right. If it's too long, you're always kind of chasing the foot plate, you're chasing that leg drive, you'll never get it. If it's too short, you're not going to get the hips on and you're going to be all cramped up, your hip flexors are going to blow out, okay? So a really important thing now is getting that leg length right. A little tip to get your leg length right is shorten your boat up really short. Go for a paddle and it's going to feel really cramped, it's going to feel horrible, okay? Lengthen it out a setting. Go paddle for 2 minutes. See if it's a little bit better. Now, go out again. Yeah, this is starting to feel better, but I'm maybe a little bit cramped. Lengthen it out again. Oh, that actually feels a little bit too long. I might bring that back now. Bring it in and it's got, right, I'm in the neck of the woods now. This is where I think I need to be with my leg length. You will find your leg length going from short to long. Almost impossible to find it coming long to short, okay? So put yourself in that uncomfortable position, bring it right in, and then lengthen out, okay? Why a lot of people will set their leg length wrong is that they're looking for extra stability on the boat, okay? And it's actually counterproductive to have it long. If you have the leg length correct, your connection with the ski is going to be much better and it's actually going to make you more stable. So what feels like it's making you more stable is ultimately going to work against you down the track, okay? So trust this, get that leg length in right, get it as tight as it needs to be, but still as long as it's allowing the hips that forward and back motion. And I guarantee it's going to make you paddle a lot better. You're going to be way stronger and you're also going to be more stable. Okay, so a little tip then about leg drive that I try and give people is about squeezing oranges under your heels, okay? So we imagine you've got, on your foot plate, you've got 2 oranges, and what you're trying to do is squeeze as much juice out of those as you can, right? The heel comes on, it squeezes, and then it lets off, and you're getting lots of great orange juice coming out, okay? If you slam that on and take it off quick, you're just going to shoot bits of orange all over the place, okay? So you want to squeeze it on solid, hold it on, let it come off, okay? So that's a little tip on how you should be manipulating the foot plate with your heel and that's going to set you up then really well with that really good solid connection, and it's from there then that's going to help your stability, and then it's going to also help you load the catch. Okay, next important cue is hip rotation. So what we mean by hip rotation is that the hips are moving in a forward and back motion on the seat, okay? Doesn't matter what craft you're in, it can be a K1, it can be a surf ski, we still want to see this forward and back motion on the seat. There's three components to why we want to see that, okay? The first one is, and you might have seen this in like other sports, like boxing and golf, and which are rotational sports, and a lot of power comes in out of the hip, okay? You'll see it in freestyle swimming as well, like where there's a hip dominant swimming. So what we want to do, like when the hip comes forward, is that it's actually generating drive into the ski, okay? So that's a really important thing to get your head around in terms of like the energy, again, that we're trying to transfer into the ski, and that's really going to help with that power going through the craft, okay? So that's the first part of what good hip rotation is going to do. The second part is, and again, because of all the phases that we talk about are all interconnected, when we get to the exit part of the stroke, if our hips are getting that nice rotation and we've rotated nicely on the seat, when we get to the exit, we've created all this real nice space now for the blade to exit, okay? If our hips aren't rotating, then we're kind of trying to, get the blade out, and it's jammed in at the back, okay? The hips come around as part of that really strong frame. We've spoken about the frame earlier. So we come back, and now we've got all this great space. The hand stays at that nice height, and bang, the blade just feathers out of the water. The small amount of water that's on the blade just drops off, and you've got a real nice efficient stroke. Really important to grasp the concept then that your craft is running its fastest right when the blade comes out of the water, okay? So we don't want to be putting a brake on it at the back, okay? And if those hips are rotating nicely, it's really going to aid with that ski running forward really well, okay? The third part of that good hip rotation is injury prevention, okay? If your hips are locked in and you're trying to get a lot of upper body rotation in, basically what's happening is you're twisting your spine in the middle, okay? And eventually, at some stage, that's going to present as mid to lower back pain, okay? So what we want to do instead is to have our spine all working in on one plane. Your upper body's working in sync with your hips, okay? So the shoulders are obviously going to travel on a bit of a bigger plane. The hip movement is small, but they are working in sync. And if you do that, it takes so much pressure off the lower back. And we don't want to be missing sessions. We don't want to be missing races and stuff with injuries. That blows out what we're looking for ultimately in performance, okay? So really important part then of what that means then in terms of hip rotation around injury prevention. So what we mean then about hip rotation is literally this forward and back movement of the hips. Now this is a swivel seat out of a kayak, out of a K1. And what this does, this facilitates paddlers to get this real nice smooth forward and back motion of the hips. Now there's plenty of guys will race with these, and there's Olympic finalists and stuff have raced with these successfully. A lot of paddlers will just use these as a bit of a drill, sort of like a bit of a thing to add to their arsenal, that they might do one session a week, and they just go out with the swivel seat, the rotating seat, to try and just feel that little bit extra, and then when they go back to their normal seat, hopefully that transfers across. Unfortunately, we can't put these sort of seats in skis, but we can be conscious of what we're looking for in terms of that rotation. A little sort of physical cue you can use that you are getting those hips moving really well. So our skis have a hump through the middle. So as we drive one hip back, the other, the recovery side hip is coming forward. So as that comes forward, the bottom of your bum, top of your hamstring is going to kind of push into that hump. So if you can feel that there on the recovery side as you're exiting on this side, that's your physical cue that your hips are running real nice, okay? If you're not getting that and you're a bit jammed up, you know, it's a good chance that hip rotation's just not happening, okay? If you can get it back, it's really important. It's one of the first things that we see paddlers lose in choppy water, and that's why it's so important to have that really good leg length. That good leg length is then going to allow you give you that confidence then to get those hips, get that nice forward and back rotational movement of the hips, okay? So it's a really, really important part of a good forward stroke, and it's a key component to the 7 cue words I use. Next really important cue word I use is narrow catch, okay? So what we mean by a narrow catch is getting the blade right in beside the ski, okay? So contemporary skis have got these nice big cutaways in them now, so that's allowing us to really get closer to that theoretical center line of the boat, okay? So we've talked about this concept of energy propelling our skis forward. So if we can get that energy closer to the center line, when that power comes on, it's going to help drive the ski forward rather than the ski going flapping around kind of thing and fishtailing, right? So we get that nice narrow catch, that's going to aid that power coming on. The narrow catch is then going to set your top hand into the correct spot as well, okay? You get that wide catch out here, your top hand's out here because you're connected with that shaft, okay? So you get that nice narrow catch, bang, top hand has to be in the right spot. We've got that shaft connecting us, so what's good on one side is replicated out on the other, and narrow catch is a really good example of then setting us up for a really strong top hand, which is a cue word down the track, okay? So always trying to get it real nice and tight on the ski, and a bit of a sort of one around. If you're never clipping your ski with your paddle, you're probably paddling too wide, okay? So you should be in nice and, you know, just glancing the ski every now and again. Get some nice protective tape along those gunnels so you're not doing any damage, and get right in along the side, get it in, load it up, and then bang. Next cue word we're going to talk about is exit at the hips. Really important part of a real efficient forward stroke. So when the blade comes out of the water, that's when our ski is running at its quickest, okay? So what we don't want to do is drag the blade back too far behind us and put a brake on, okay? We see this a lot with paddlers who might be on a ski that's a little bit too tippy for them, or paddlers who haven't got their leg length set right and they haven't got that real good stability, that they find a bit of stability out the back by kind of leaving the blade languishing in the water and maybe even leaving it in a little bit longer. And they're kind of getting a little bit of support back there, right? So what we want to do is to get that blade in. We've come through in our power phase and just get it out clean. We want it out at the hip. We don't want to drag it back any further, okay? A really good cue on that is you've got the shaft. You don't want the shaft to ever come back past the hip, okay? So we want the whole stroke is out ahead of the body, and the shaft as a visual cue never comes back past the hip, okay? So everything's happening out ahead, bang, in, twist, and then it's out, okay? We don't want to see this blade languishing at the back. We don't want it sloppy. And then when we reference back to what we spoke about, the rectangle, we also don't want that for the top hand dropping down at the front, because then that's going to mess up what happens at the back end. So we want to keep that top hand at the front. That's going to aid getting that really nice exit at the hip, and then bang, the ski's going to just glide really well once your exit's been made, okay? So it's a really important part of the stroke, and it's one that, as I said, a lot of paddlers can get wrong, and particularly paddlers who might be on the craft that's a little bit ahead of them, or paddlers who haven't got the confidence in their current craft because their leg length just isn't right, okay? So really important thing to focus on. Get it out. You want it to be as quiet as you can, as little water on the blade as you can, and just get it out quick. Don't leave it languishing. It's really going to help you propel that ski forward. Really important aspect of paddling well is to be relaxed, okay? And a good cue word for that is to be relaxed in face, neck and shoulders. When we tense up, we're not going to get that same transfer of power into the craft, okay? So trying to get those shoulders down away from the ears, staying relaxed, even though you're working hard, keeping that upper body rotation on. When we tense up, what's going to happen then, that upper body rotation is going to get restricted, and then we're going to go back into using our arms more. Stay relaxed, keep that rotation on, and it's going to allow you to paddle much, much better. One of the cues that I'll give paddlers when I'm out in the water who look particularly tense is I'll just ask them to smile. So when they smile, next thing everything just relaxes, and then that flow comes back in. So just to reiterate, relax that face, neck and shoulders. If things are feeling really tense, just give it a smile. It's going to make it a much easier day on the water. Okay, so another really key cue word in the 7 that I'm using for paddlers is the strong top hand. It's a real game changer along with the hip rotation in you paddling really, really well. So what we mean by a strong top hand is how the top hand controls the resistance that's coming off the blade as the stroke's initiated, okay? So water is 800 times more resistant than air. So we're dealing with a lot of resistance on that blade. When the stroke comes onto the blade wants to pull back from that resistance. It wants to go up, okay? So what we want to do there is control that. So blade goes in, we control it at ear-eye height. We've established our frame with our nice narrow catch, and the rotation comes on, okay? So what we're going to do then is see this top hand stay at this ear-eye height through the power phase and then into the setup, okay? Really important then that we maintain that really nice hand height the whole way through. We've talked about that in terms of the phases. We've talked about that in terms of the rectangle. We've talked about what that does then in terms of giving us a really nice clean exit, okay? When we get that really good, strong top hand happening in our stroke, where we really feel it is in our abs, okay? It's really in our core, is solidly engaged if that top hand is really working hard on the shaft, okay? If you want to get really deeper on what that is, we will actually be sort of driving down on the shaft, okay? But what we want to do is drive down on the shaft, but keep that hand at that height, okay? If we do that, as I say, we're going to really use that resistance that's on the blade to then send that energy into the ski and send it forward. If we let that top hand creep up, our shoulder goes into a compromised position. So straight away, one of the 4 Ps might start eventuating, which is injury, okay? And we want to prevent that. We let that come up here a little bit, our performance is going to suffer, okay? You get this down, you're going to have more power transferring onto the boat. You're going to be quicker. You're going to be more stable. It's a really, really important thing to get right. And the real big physical cue out of it is that when the catch comes on, you really feel it in your abs, okay? So really important part of paddling really well. And as I said, it is a game changer. If you get this right, your paddling will go to a new level.